Clench your fists, strike a spark, ignite the mist. Feel the earth beneath your soles, roots run deep, you're in control. Whisper loud and let them hear, every answer's in your mirror. Step into the light, my friend, the power's in your hands, no end. Break the chains.
Welcome to another installment of Billightenment, which I keep saying that I'm going to make as its own podcast, and I promise I will. I'm going to have a little more time in the next couple of days, and that's going to be the kind of the focus for me. But Sheila Tillich has been kind enough to come back, and Sheila has. I think we should start first with all the things that you have going on that people can partake in and be a part of and learn more about this. Whoop, I had you muted. My bad. Yep, now you're good.
I'm good.
Yes,
I'm good.
now
I'm
you're
open.
good.
I'm open. Okay, good. Well, I've got lots of stuff coming. This summer, lots of activities going on.
Yeah.
I'm actually part of the Lined Collective on South Avenue. And Tuesdays, every Tuesday night, the last Tuesday of the month, I'm going to be doing a question and answers that you can ask the Star Mothers how to step in to your multidimensional spiritual abilities.
Okay.
The 24th chromosome.
Right.
So that is going to be open to the public.
Okay.
The last Tuesday of the month. And then in July, I actually have a very intimate integrated energy therapy workshop. That's the 3 levels on Friday, the 11th, 12th, and 13th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
And then also the beginning of August, I have another one. So almost every single month, I have some type of teaching modality that you can actually be part of. And what I always share, it's about you learning about you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stand in your light? How do you understand the things that need to be healed for yourself? And if you choose to be a practitioner, you can, but most people don't. And it's about your own personal healing.
A lot of this is, I think it's mistaken. It is about you, the person.
Exactly.
It's for you to step into your power that was God-given, source-given, however you want to phrase it. It's all the things that this is. It bothers me sometimes because you and I did a panel at St. John Fisher University.
Yeah.
And one of the other people on the panel talked about how religion and how they're looked at by family members and things. And to me, this is what religion should have been or was trying to teach us. It's not about controlling people. It's not about buying land and hiding pedophiles as it went on. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, well, I mean, unfortunately that happened. And I don't mean to make light of that in any way. But my point is that there was a lot of control through those things. Programs. And you have to almost, I'll just say this. When it comes to religion, if you look back through history, religions were changed to fit a person's wants. Right? King Henry VIII wanted to bang somebody else, and he couldn't get so he changed from Catholicism to Protestant. I mean, that's really what it was.
Well, it was, but
I know it's really, really graphic and based the way I'm saying it, but that's what it was. So if that's religion, there's something wrong.
Yeah, but also it's Martin Luther. When he left the Catholic Church, it's all around that time, in the 15th century.
The thesis.
I mean, there was so much about that. And it's an inside job, your soul connection to your soul source, whatever you want to call it.
But I think that's so important, and I feel like it needs to be said ad nauseum, which sounds obnoxious, I guess, but it does, because I feel like it just doesn't. It's like me trying to talk to my 15-year-old son. I got to say it over. Why you keep repeating yourself? Because you're not doing what I say. Yeah. You know, and but it's the same thing. It's like you almost have to. I hate to use the term "beat you over the head," but that was what my mother's like. I got to beat you over the head with this. Yes, yeah. In a way, I'd like to, because you're making we are making it harder on ourselves by not stepping into our own power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've talked many times about your own divinity. What is your power?
Mm-hmm.
The divinity of the power that you have for your choices, which you can make. And it's about love or fear.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that too. And coming from compassion And a lot of times we don't know how to do that because we haven't been taught.
Right.
If we've been taught, follow the rules and you do this, this, and this.
Mhm.
But why? Why do we have to do that? And that's where the soul comes in. Like you totally know, and
Yes.
that's your soul connection.
Right.
And so that's what's happening now, is that energy is coming through.
Yeah.
But we, as human beings, have had to learn that. And
Right.
sometimes it's very confusing right now. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to do.
I'm thinking of something as I had an incident the other day where I was driving home and I thought, I just got the inspiration to pull off and go into some place. And I went in there and the next thing I know, everything's kind of changing. And the thing is, nothing. It just sort of, but you can see where if you follow that into, I feel like your inner being, I'll call it that, your soul is trying to say, come this way, come this way, come this way. They're not going to fight you. But a lot of times when you feel crappy, it's because you're not in alignment with your inner being, right? Alignment with your inner being. And I think that is that different than when we talk about quantum energy. That's sort of the stuff that's out here.
That is.
Yes.
That is what it is.
It is.
It is. So quantum energy is the alignment of who you are as an electromagnetic being, why you are here.
Okay.
And your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, the choices that you make, but your whole life is whether you live in a higher frequency of love and compassion and not wanting to hurt somebody, you know, and then taking responsibility for yourself when you do wrong, you know, you did wrong, you know, instead of living in the ego, say, well, it's just too bad, you know, or in the lower frequency of, I don't know any other way. So I'm going to stay stuck and I'm not going to do better because I'm unworthy. Why?
Yes.
It's all about guilt.
Right.
And also about unworthiness and loved. A lot of times we always talk about that energy psychology back to what you were brought up with in the very beginning and how you relate to all emotions.
Right.
And everything. And the quantum energy that's here now is about change. And it's about the higher alignment of who you really are as a soul.
Okay.
Okay. And so when you have communication of, I should go down this road and go into here, it could be good or bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
I always think it's good. I don't know.
Oh, it is good. No, it is good. But why I said good or bad is that, you know, somebody that was really pissed off at work or whatever, and you're really stressful and you want to just go home and do what you're going to, they said, no, come on over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that's, and then
but that's not almost your inner being following, is it?
It's like the devil and the angel.
Right.
You know,
right.
which are you listening to in the brain?
Yeah.
You know, the neighborhood. That's what I said. Don't go in the neighborhood alone. Take somebody with you. You know, in recovery, you know, sponsor somebody that's been through it. And that's exactly what I do, is that I've been through it. I'm a recovery metaphysician, and I share stories because stories are the heart center of the gateway. Your heart is the gateway to love and your experiences and your wisdom.
Right.
And that's why we talk about serendipity and synchronicity, why we came together and why so many other people are starting to waken up and they're asking questions. What is alignment? What does that mean? I'm hearing that all the time. Well, alignment with, are you happy or not happy? And are you in line to make your life a better situation or do you want to stay stuck? So it's about going inside. Yes. Listening to your soul source, your divinity, who you really are as a divine being. And this energy, you know, was prophesized. It's in the Bible. It's Revelation. We're going through Revelation. If you want to go religion, it's in it. If you talk about Native American or indigenous, it is the time that we've been waiting for. It's the Mayan calendar.
It is.
It's the change of everything.
Yeah.
And that's all astrological. And also it's all about physics and the energy of the universe.
Well, a lot of times I think people will find this stuff more palpable. Am I saying it right?
They can understand it more in simpler terms.
In simpler terms, if they, if there's some kind of, we can put it to science, right? I can go, oh, this can be proven, or that,
It is proven.
Right. So I would ask you, can quantum energy bridge the gap between science and spirituality?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it has.
Yeah.
However, mainstream hasn't been ready for it yet. It had to get to a certain point for it to come out. And, I talk about the 36-year time period of this quantum change in humanity.
Mhm.
And it has to do with scientific evidence that the Earth's magnetic field is changing. And Heart Math Institute and NASA and Princeton University proved that energy is consciousness, and it has to do with what emotions that we are emitting out
Right.
into the field.
Right.
So there's a lot of science out there. And when you think about the last 5 years since COVID, look how much has changed. Look how much has come out that was hidden,
Mhm.
but also it was all about control.
Yeah.
And it changed all of our lives.
It did. I don't know if I'm naive in my thinking that in the beginning it was for the greater good. I like to think that. I don't know. I feel like there were many people who weren't sure, so tried to do things that would be for the greater good. But when you look at things as that happened, we get people getting tickets in certain parts of the country for walking in a park. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, to me, then we've gone a bridge too far.
It was control. But it shows.
But in the beginning, I thought, okay, I understand this. It seems to make sense. Let's try not to have large gatherings of people. And yet, Sheila, that time for me was magical.
Mine was too.
I never stopped working. My buddy owned a bar. It became a tree fort, and we all hung out and pretended we were doing the floors and things in case any authority came by, and we were just having a great time.
Yeah, I loved it.
And I didn't get sick until almost like it was over, and then I got it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But we can look back at that and our reasons for doing whatever we did.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that there was a shift in the paradigm as far as it allowed parents to be more in tune with their children.
Yes.
Be more responsible for their children. But also it's about our own self-reflecting. And that's where a lot of people started this new alignment and waking up, that they don't have any choice but to hit their bottom and do different. And so a lot of people do that. They started, podcasts, they started different things. They finally left their jobs, or their jobs was no longer there.
Right.
So it was like we were forced, but it was really part of the timeline of what we were going through with these changes that have been happening.
Yeah.
And they've been changing all along.
There's some that say that nothing comes out of the blue, as we say. It comes out of the oblivious. In other words, you're being oblivious to your inner being calling you over here or whatever. So if there is, and we call them major life changes, and they can be traumatic. They can be, and there's something to get through, but there's something comforting about knowing, at least in my mind, that you're unconditionally loved, that the bottom really isn't going to drop out as long as you keep thinking and taking the inspiration and putting it to action, and not so much like a grind out thing, but to action. And then you can actually change your whole world. I mean, there are people who believe that you can control the weather.
Well, you can. And that is scientifically based too.
I know. But I'm not. I know these things sound so strange to people, because even my kid, and I have to have a conversation with him because he gets annoyed. Like we're saying bad stuff about God. Now, he did do some Catholic schooling early on in his education, but and what I want to say to him is, you have the power, and it's your thoughts that will hold you or release you, or how you want to be. And you can go in and yes, that's the work. Not every day you're going to feel like great, right? But you got to kind of try to have the practices to help you get there. And much like working out at the gym, you can build those muscles, so to speak.
Call them spiritual barbells.
Yeah, the spiritual barbells.
That is what you go through.
And that's where I would ask you, like, what practices can, as you talk about the shift in the energy,
yes,
what practices can individuals and communities adopt to strengthen their energetic resilience, right? Because we can say, my saying is life never stops coming at you, right? I mean, you and I have had conversations,
Exactly.
right? I've told you things, you've told me things, where life never stops coming at you. But you can build your energetic resilience so you can stay up here and not let these lower frequencies dictate you.
Exactly.
Because that goes back to, and let me just put it this way for anyone listening, is I would feel better if you just were different. Well, you can't control that person and be different, and you should feel better from inside, not outside.
Exactly. Well, that's where you build compassion in yourself. You change you first. And how you do that is don't do what you usually do. And that's why I said, don't do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Do what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Meaning turn the TV off.
Yep.
Turn the music off in the background, or excuse me, have the music more of the frequency that's going to help you stay in a good mood, not the frequency that's going to change your mood into anger or fear. And it's in the background because subconsciously your subconscious is listening to it. And so make it your priority to make you a priority, just like we talked about. Get up in the morning, say it's going to be a great day. I'm excited about this day, instead of, oh boy, here we go.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all about your thoughts.
But you can shift that. You can shift that.
Shift, and I talk about that all the time when I counsel people. Shift
the
way you're thinking. You always put it out that you can't do something.
What are, as we talk about shift, what would you say healers' roles are in supporting a planetary shift like this?
It's individual.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
It's all individual. However,
we say a planetary consciousness shift, I would say.
It's called coherence.
Yes.
It's a coherence consciousness shift.
Yeah.
But you have to be in that coherence field yourself.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say go with inside, and it starts with you.
Right.
So you have to open up your soul source or your communication from your heart, the love part of who you really are as a being.
Yeah.
And stay in that frequency. And how you do it with the heart math, which I talk about all the time. And even if you don't do it on a regular basis, just go into your heart and just breathe and think of things that you love. Just stay in that, I love my kids. I love my kitty.
That really does raise your vibration. It's amazing.
And also when you're in the workplace, and you have a person that, is just set in their ways, they're going to do away. Don't talk, if they ask you something, just say, hold on a second, or can you repeat that again? And give yourself time, as they say, 10 seconds before you answer.
Yeah.
But really go inside and say, help me. Because you can talk to your subconscious. You can talk to all the helpers around you. You're talking to your divinity. You're talking to you, who you really are. And the more you do it, the more you train your cells to actually respond to it quicker. That's what heart math techniques are, is where you use your breathing. It's not a meditation. It's more of a breathing, but it's also the connection between your heart and your brain. The shifting of the positivity or the appreciation or love or remembering something that somebody did for you.
Yeah.
And then you can start to realize that you can do that for other people. And like a work situation, if the boss is just really ribbing you up or whatever, just listen, but don't take it on. What I talked about on the panel, you can actually, observe, but don't absorb. Don't absorb their negativity. It is.
That's interesting, because I remember reading a lot of Thich Nhat Hanh. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh. He's a monk who was, I believe, exiled from Vietnam, or maybe went to Vietnam. I don't remember exactly the story, but when you were meditating, it was to observe these thoughts.
Exactly.
But just watch them. And you can do that. It's freaky at first. I mean, you can really do it.
That's your abilities. That's your 24th. That's your intuition. Or seeing things before it happened. And then it freaks you out how that happens.
Yes.
But it's in the field. So when we're talking about quantum energy, all right, it's in the field, past, present, and future.
Right.
And there's some, thoughts of that, we live in the future at the same time that we are in now, which I believe that too.
Well, there are those that say we jump timelines, we shift, and it's so weird, because you go, come on, man, I'm here, I'm tired. It's strange to me, because it feels like it's too worlds. No, not woo woo, but two
Worlds, it is
worlds
two worlds.
in the sense that see it, touch it, feel it, realistic, what, this, that, and the other thing.
Analytical.
And then on the other side, it's like, just let it go. And there are people who tell you this is all a simulation and you chose to do it. And it's a
That
dream
too.
and you're dreaming it and whatever. I don't know.
Oh.
It sounds too hard sometimes. I think the human brain can only do so much, but the higher mind can help you do that stuff.
Well, exactly. And as you do these exercises, whether it's heart math or just sit in the present moment, which I talked about all the time, SIP, you are building new neurotransmitters in the brain. And that is scientific too. But you have to keep doing it. You got to retrain. It's just like a baby when they learn to do things. It's in there. It's the same with dementia patients and people that are starting to lose their memory or whatever. There's more to it than that. But the thing is that always keep your brain active, keep it growing. And the higher consciousness is the soul's part of it.
That's interesting because
and that's why they're so spiritual. The monks are so spiritual.
Yes.
And they can see things and you can observe things, just like you can observe things that are happening. Like a lot of times you don't want to change things at work or whatever. And you say, oh, he's going to come in and he's going to blow me away again. And he's going to do all this. And it's like, okay, now what if he comes in and changes all of a sudden, he doesn't say that. All of a sudden he changes for the good. That's something you can work on the day before.
Yeah.
Put it into the field so that when they come in the next day and all of a sudden they'll say, I had a real experience when I was sleeping, and all of a sudden the guy changed. It's like Ebenezer.
Yes, Scrooge.
Scrooge. It's the same thing.
Well, I think that you can focus on the positive attributes of a person, and you will get more of that from them and less of what you don't like if you focus on that.
Or focus on, just like if you're behind a driver, old people, elderly people that are driving and they're having a good conversation and they're going way below the speed limit. It's really burning the hell out of you. You're really pissed. Just think of maybe they're talking about their grandkids. Maybe they're thinking about the visit they're going to go to, and turn it around so that you aren't focused on your anger or the stress of you not getting up soon enough.
It really is.
You're late for work, so you're beating yourself up because you did it again. Here we go.
It's all perspective, right?
It's all perspective.
Yeah.
Positivity and perspective.
Can emerging technologies, and we think about AI, we hear a lot about that, biofeedback devices, you've got wearable tech that can, a person who's on the Billightenment podcast had wearable tech.
Heart rate. And
we kind of talk about AFib. He learned he had AFib because of that.
That's all good stuff.
But can they enhance or complement quantum energy healing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So they're tools that can help.
That's what it is.
Yeah. And we don't think that, though.
But see,
we're not taught that.
No, but the advancement in energy is the quantum stage that we're in now. It is the energy of the frequency of the Earth and the magnetic field from the galactic, or the metaphysics of it, and how it relates to the frequency of everything on planet Earth, whether it's your body, whether it's technology, whether it is all the new stuff that's come up in society, in medical, but especially the AI. So this change that we're happening and the people's fear of the bad AI by taking it for bad things, which it can be, and it has been, but it also can be for the good. And that's where more people are being enlightened, waking up and saying, okay, I'm going to use it for the good. And they'll, the whistleblowers, the ones that are coming out and saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And of course, they're going to pay the price, but you rather have it for the good than for the bad, because you know the consequences of for the bad. And that's exactly what's happened in our past. That's the wisdom part of saying, okay, if I don't do anything and change the situation, nothing's going to change. It's going to continue the way it is. And that's why a lot of people have stepped up and say, I've got to say something. This can't go on anymore. It's wrong.
So, okay. So,
and the same with the AI stuff. It's happening.
I would ask this because there are people always talk about dark forces, dark energy. And I always wonder if, and it's a very, very simple philosophical idea, that the being that is in me is the being that's in the tree, and the being, but all evil is, because all things came from source and all things come from good, is a privation of good. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Almost like it came here, you're given free will, whatever that is, whatever that energy is, and it drops to a lower frequency.
Yes.
So it started out, is that, or am I mean, that was the sort of the philosophy, very simple. I think it was Thomas Aquinas, more or less, that it was everything that comes from God is of the God source and is good. But when it gets here, there can be a privation, but there's some good in it. It all started out as good.
Well, exactly. And if you,
It's almost like the story of Star Wars. When you think about
well, it is. And when you apply it to, when I keep talking about tapping into your wisdom and your past lives, you know, a lot of people don't believe that, but
yeah.
I do. And many other people are waking up to that. And where different remembrance of past lives come through. It's all about going through those past lives, learning from good and bad, your choices, whether you want to be a good person or a bad person, but it's also building your human development. That's why you came here, from your soul came here to experience being a human, good and bad. And so that then you can pull upon that to use in the good. And that's what's happening now with the two modalities that I use, integrated energy therapy and unity field healing. IET is about the stuff that needs to be cleared in yourself, the issues in the tissues. And unity field healing is about the quantum energy being unified in the higher frequency of who you really are as a divine being. Going back and allowing all the good stuff from your past, not the bad stuff. A lot of people, we talked about this before, have past life readings because they know that something is holding us back. Okay, you can look at it, but you don't have to stay in there. Now, look at the stuff that got you through it. How did you get through it? A lot of people, I didn't. I was stabbed and I was killed. Okay, that lifetime. Let's go to another lifetime. It's all about learning the experience, building those spiritual barbells in that lifetime, and then bringing it into this lifetime. How do we use it in this lifetime?
Right.
And that's where the heart comes in again. And the heart connection to the magnetic field. And your thoughts are energy. And what thoughts you put out there is what you get back. And we all have been around people that have that anger and that lower frequency in them. And we feel it and we don't want to be around them. We go, ooh, I just want to get out of here.
Right.
But the best part is when you understand it and you learn about it, you can go through it. It no longer can be trapped within you or get stuck within you. And this allows your spirit to make different choices. And that's what's happening on the planet. People are waking up and saying, no, we don't want World War III. No. We want to stop things. And that's exactly what's happening. We're trying to stop everything. Yeah. Enough. We're not going there. That's old energy. That's old ways of doing things. And we, as divine beings, have the power to change it. But it has to be individual. There
was when you and I did the panel, I think there was a question of like, how do we get the collective light? The only thing I can think of is you can't get the collective light. You can change yourself and maybe by that example, change someone else. Possibly if they see you, why is everything always working out for you? What is your secret? That together, then you kind of can do that. But it has to start with the individual first. You can't control anybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't control.
Right.
But that's why it's always about you. And it's like we never stop learning.
No.
And a lot of people say to me, well, you're a healer, you work with energy, why don't you just heal yourself? I have in many areas. And some things I can't. However, I accept it.
Right.
And then I know things that I can change and what I can't change. And I'm a human. I'm going to continue having these trials and obstacles in my life, challenges, and also what choices do I use all the way up to the very end.
Talk about the end for a second.
When I talk about my hospice work, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm so blessed to be a hospice worker and also all the death I've had in my own family. It has taught me how to relate from coming from love and not coming from the fear or the actual persona of the relationship when they were here in life form.
Somebody read or heard, I don't know, but we hear about dementia and we hear about trying to find cures or medicine, something that's going to help, and how hard that is for other family members to see, and it's really bad. But you go back to the individual. So the person that is having these symptoms, are they holding on to life and really slowly crossing over, even while they're sort of consciously here? They're just for some reason holding on and not going.
There's
I don't know.
many variables about that, as from my own experience anyway.
Okay.
All right. So dementia and hospice are two separate things, but
Yes.
then they can be the same, because a person could have dementia,
right,
and then they're
be in
going through the hospice, and all of a sudden they clear up a day or so before, and they've got the right mind, and everything, they remember everything. And then also they can have communication from their loved ones at the same time. And people say, well, they're just hallucinating. They're not really seeing. Well, guess what? They are. That shows that the spirit is just in a different frequency.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
Right.
that because they are getting ready to cross over, that veil is open so that they can communicate. You hear that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it. I've experienced it myself. I've experienced it. And then there's people that have the dementia that, that was a dementia one, but people who are fearful of dying, and that they hold on to the last breath. They hold on and hold on and hold on.
Yeah.
And or they hold on for the black sheep of the family to come back, and the family members that took care of them, really pissed because Mom, you can go, but no, they're holding on so that they can have closure with the last person. And also sometimes they don't want to leave is because they're fearful of the family members, how they're going to survive, because they've always been in the caretaker role. And it's time to let go of the persona, and that you did the best you could with what you had. Now, I know there's a lot of things come into play, that whether it's a caretaking role or whether it is a fear of dying because of all the guilt you still have inside, that you're afraid to face those people, or if a face those loved ones when you cross
on the other side.
Yeah, on the other side.
Yeah, but I always think it's just pure positive love and no resistance.
It is.
So,
however, but we're programmed to believe that we're so bad because we didn't go to church on Sunday, we didn't do this, and it's imprinted within the programming from early childhood that it's still there. I've had many stories of working in the hospital, and I was called to help somebody cross over, but to do a healing on them, somebody I knew very well, and my manager said, yeah, go for it. And I did. And he was so fearful, and the guilt he had as a Christian boy, as a Catholic boy, that what the nuns told him, he was bad, and his parents. And so he was afraid to cross over. And then finally, when I was able to bring the angels over, and his daughter also was in the room at the same time, it's okay, you can let it go. That's what healing's all about. That's what the electromagnetic field can do between two people when it's the right intention.
It's interesting because I we were taught about heaven and hell and all these things, and you don't want to burn in hell, and I feel like when your energy, you're never going to cease to exist in some form, but when you do leave this, right, you leave this earth suit, you go back into pure positive love, and there is no resistance, and that you could live similarly, probably not exactly the same because you are having a human experience here, by letting things go, not taking things too seriously, and sort of just kind of going with the flow. But I'm watching a loved one now who has Parkinson's, and the mind is still sharp, but every day is getting worse and worse and worse, and can't move and will say, I'm dying. And you don't know what to say to that, right? So I now will just say, I don't know what to say, that I don't like hearing it, and the response is, I don't like saying it. And that's where my thing is this slowly you are crossing over, but you're holding on in some way here. I don't know.
Well, I actually experienced
that
with my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
All right. She had Parkinson's for 13.
Yeah.
And I went through all that too. And even though she wasn't able to recognize what I was doing, it was really about me. It was when I was in early recovery, is that I made my amends to her soul. All right. I made my amends to her verbally outside, and she didn't know what I was talking about because she wasn't at the same level of understanding that I was. However, my soul needed to say it. And I know now, as she's in spirit, that I'm forgiven. All right. It was about my forgiven, but also her spirit knew that. Her spirit knew that. And, you know, Parkinson's a hard thing. It's a very hard thing. But so is cancer and so is all the other ones.
Right.
It's really about the soul letting go and going back in to the power that they have inside. And it is all about love.
Yeah.
And once they cross over, you know, they can come back in many, many forms. Most of the time, they come back in the same persona so that you understand it. You recognize them. If you go to a medium and they come cross over, like my friend Suzanne Giesman, you know, when she gives examples about that, and she helped me, she was one of my teachers to teach about evidential mediumship, that you know that it is from spirit, because only spirit would know certain things.
Right.
And that's the stuff that they, in their frequency, is able to put into our brains that we can actually observe it and then speak it or say certain things. You know, I learned that learning mediumship myself. However, my own experience in this lifetime, I think I shared with you one time on with your audience about when my brother passed in 2019.
Yeah.
And now he came to me. And then it was just about a year and a half ago that he came to me again when I was in a restaurant to give a beautiful gift to one of his best friends. And it was 5 years later.
Yeah.
And he was talking to his friends. His friend was thinking about my brother 2 or 3 days before, and it was still upsetting him that they couldn't have made amends. But my brother came to me and around the whole situation in the restaurant, and I seen him go over to this gentleman and give him a big hug. And it was a closure. It was a love frequency that I was able to give that gift, but my brother gave that gift to his best friend. You know, that they're still here. They're still watching. They're still around us, giving us help. But we have to believe it. We have to know it. You know, intention-wise, I want to communicate with my brother. Okay, come today or whatever. And they can, if you wanted to put it that way. But you've got to be open to looking for the signs. And a lot of people aren't. They say, oh, that's ridiculous. That's not me. That's just my imagination. Well, guess what? It's not your imagination. That's how it works. Matter of fact, somebody was asking me that yesterday, and I gave that same thing. It came through. It's like, no, you go with the first thought that you come, because that is the connection with the vibration, and that's what is usually the truth. And a lot of times when you try to second guess it, you know, that's our analytical mind.
Right.
That's where we're trying to go back to human, and spirit isn't human.
No.
That's what. But we came here to learn these things.
And boy, there's
to evolve.
Here's where people kind of could get a little off, but I'll ask this. So there are those like Dr. Deep, who studies Ayurvedic medicine and does a lot of the nadi water with the nadi rod and the energy and the changing in the water. And they've done experiments here and at MIT and things where you can actually see the frozen water after it's charged. The pattern is not chaotic. It's almost like, I think, a lotus flower, it looks like.
Well, what I have suggested before is have in the audience go and watch The One Field. Okay. And it shows all of that. It shows the water. It shows how just thought with this placebo pill, you know, if you think it's going to help, it'll help. And also communication with the heart coherence across the world. Yeah. All right. And then how it changes, and they scientifically proven and shown it. And it's been out for quite a while. It's called The One Field. And I can give you that link. You can put it in there.
Yeah,
so people can look at that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to put that up on the website.
So there's a lot of evidence out there.
Yeah, but when we talk about, so let's say
we all experience it, and a lot of times we experience it, but we don't want to admit that we experience it.
Right.
And so then we can't use it when it happens. Or I think we are using it. I think we are using it.
When we talk about like past lives, means that there could be a future life, right? You could choose to come back. And but how do then, let's say, for example, your brother chooses to come back, but it's only like a Dr. Deep will tell you, this is 2% of what you are.
And
so
98% is all spirit.
All spirit. Yeah. And then, so if your brother went into a new body, could you still call on that energy?
Oh, yes. Yes, I think I know where you're getting at.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's two different things. Well, how can I call him if he came back in these past lives?
Well,
but that's my question.
First of all, the energy of a soul never dies, and it's everywhere. all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
So you can be in another body and also still with your loved ones in spirit
Okay.
the whole time they are alive.
Yeah.
Because that's the contract you made, the love connection, all
Okay.
right, with the soul. So you can, very much so. And a lot of times you feel things in people that you know them. And how can that be? Because that person is still alive.
Mhm.
How can that be? Is because you can be in different bodies at the same time. It's the soul.
Yeah.
And the soul has the capacity
See,
to do that.
That's the stuff that people go, all right, I'm out.
That's exactly.
Hey, I'm out.
Believe me, I know
That's
it.
just it.
I know
but
it.
I asked that because I think,
Yeah.
and I've only had too many similar, too much similar information come from different sources about that.
Well, you know, Cryon, Lee Carroll, talked about also animals coming back. You can have an animal that comes back in the same type of breed, but you can have an animal with totally different breed, but it has the same personality as your old animal. All right. And then also switching souls type of thing or personalities of the dog, that type of stuff. There's a lot of evidence about that too. A lot of people say, they don't believe that. Well, that's part of the energy medicine that's out there that has been proven, but it hasn't been allowed to come out. Now it's being allowed to come out. Things are going to be wonderful going forward, but we have to go through this hard time first. And that's where we all are. We're all in that limbo stuck. And how do we deal with this? How do we deal with this? It's one day at a time.
Yeah. Yes.
Keep it simple.
Right.
Keep it simple.
Right.
And to go with inside and believe. And even if you don't believe, like in AA, you know, when they say when you have a resentment towards somebody, pray for them for 2 weeks, you know, everything that you want for yourself. I mean, even that's some of it.
Right.
You pray for them. And then within two weeks, your feelings have changed, but also they've changed. And because it's in the field, if you're on the same spiritual wavelength, you know, a lot of people are fearful of changing. They're very fearful of changing in the spirit realm, you know, because they don't know how to survive. And that is the lower frequency. And until they start to have the experiences, then they actually start to understand it. And it's part of them hitting their bottom.
Yeah.
Or it's time. I can't go anyplace else, you know. And the money situation that we all have, it's the same thing. You know, everything going up and everything, how are we going to survive or whatever? It's like, it's only money. It is energy. And energy.
I've often thought that too. And I would say, you know, it's currency, which current electricity in and out. But there is this thing where you look at it and go, there's not enough. And so you start to panic.
Yes.
And that's a very real feeling. And it's a very real concern. But you say stuck there. And that's the stuff that I think like.
That's where energy medicine comes in.
Okay. So I think like a lot of people can be spiritual to a point. Do you understand what I'm saying? Well, here's why. What I'm saying is like, I can be spiritual. I can believe that, you know, go forth and tell no one I'm going to focus on this. I can go inside myself. I can do that. But the money's not in my bank account.
I know.
Do you know what I'm saying? The money's not in my bank account. And therefore I abandon everything that is over here, spirituality wise, and in my thinking and going inside and getting to a higher frequency and doing all that. And I bring myself to a lower frequency and I panic about it and I worry about it because that's real. That's real. I can see that. That's a real number. And that's not the number I need. And blah, 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 blah. And we abandon everything. So there, am I making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. Right. But it's like, I believe all this stuff. But then do I? Because I'm sitting over here looking at my bank account and I'm having a panic attack.
Yeah, we're all doing it.
Yeah.
We're all doing it.
Right. And I think those are the things that where if you can take this stuff and do real application of it.
Exactly.
You've got to go inside. You've got to settle down. You've got to listen and follow that inspiration. And I will tell you, as someone who has been there for what feels like far too long, you know, I had what would we say, a career shift or whatever.
Yeah.
And you went from making a lot of money to not making the same amount of money, but your life was based on this over here. And it wasn't like you could really change anything. I mean, just boom. So you've been trying to then play catch up, and you're ignoring things, and you're doing that, and there's this. And I do think sometimes if you just relax, you sort of listen, you tune in, you don't panic, and you follow the intuition, everything will come to you. It's all there for you. All the money you want is like an escrow already. You just have to get on the same vibration of it. And it sounds freaking nutty when you say that to people, because I'm going, okay, that sounds fucking great, but look at my bank account.
I know. All right. So that is,
and that's like the real
belief.
World
It's
application.
belief. So there we go with the programming, the belief, and the behaviors. Again, it limits you from going forward.
Right.
That's what being stuck is. That's why I talk about recovery. It's not just alcoholism or
addiction, right?
You know, it's about whatever is not working for you that doesn't bring you joy, that doesn't make you feel happy inside. You have to take a look at it, but you have to do something about it. In recovery, I loved the 12-step programs when I started 40 years ago, because I was able to see it in action. You have a homeless person talking with a CEO, and then you have a doctor talking to a baker. All right. When you go back into the books of AA, is that the way they get through on the spiritual part is through the heart.
Yeah.
It is through emotional
boy, isn't that where we're all one?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what unity field healing is. That's here now. Is that it's the unity of the coherence field in the quantum energy that's here. It is within your field right here in this room with all these electronic stuff. And about when you sleep, we talked about that, about if you don't get the right sleep and all the stuff that is being emitting out in the field when you're sleeping, because there's not as much energy going through as it would be in the day. So it's actually bombarding your energy field within your house and stuff. But it's about you switching, you changing. Finally, that switch. Okay, all right, I'm going to do that. But it takes work. It's about taking action.
But this is the thing that I think people need evidence base. Right? This is where like science.
So look at your life.
Base.
What I always say, look at your life 5 years ago when COVID happened.
Right.
Look how we were so fearful, all the drama, everything that we were told. They told us to wear the mask. They told us I can't breathe without the mask. They told us to take the shot. We wouldn't get COVID. We got COVID anyway. You know? All the things that we didn't know. We thought we were doing right, but things come out that what was hidden that wasn't right. All right. And also with that shot, for me, you know, I had reservations about it too, but I chose to take the shot after I had COVID, by the way. It was because I told my cells that it wasn't going to hurt. I actually went inside and talked to my cells. Listen, you know, I'm the main guy here. I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to go in and do what you need to do to help me, not to hurt me. And that's where you change your thought process. You change the energy field of what you're thinking. And yes, it does seem very simple, but that's the energy that's here now that is available if you choose. And the coincidences, you know, they're not coincidences.
No, they're not.
They're exactly what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's all about our choice.
Yeah.
You know, and of course, you know, the baker and the CEO, you know, the homeless person and the doctor, the same thing. It could be either or. It's one heart talking to another. Okay. And the belief is that, okay, I have to do different. You know, I've been programmed and I believe this. However, maybe my belief has changed. Just like with me, even though I don't practice in the Catholic faith anymore, I still have the faith that I had from Jesus and Mother Mary and Mary Magdalene. And whenever I see a picture of an angel, and that's why I'm always the angel person, I feel that love inside. I go back to that. You know, and it doesn't have to be, you know, you have to do this for it to happen. No, it's an inside job.
Yeah.
Whatever will get through to you, right? And that's why they always say, look to the gratitude. Write a thankful list every single day, a gratitude list and things that you're thankful for each and every day. It's the positive things that goes out there, you know, and you got to do it because we do it over and over. We just get fed up with it. And we say, well, enough of this crap. You know, I'm out of here, you know, but also
Oh, I'm famous for putting it
Well,
all in a dumpster,
We all are.
pouring
I
some
had
gas
that
on
this
it, lighting a
morning.
match, and throwing it
I
over
had
my
that
shoulder.
yesterday.
All
And
right.
then I had to go with inside and say, okay, Sheila, come
Yes,
on back.
yes.
You know, we have to do it
Yeah.
all the time. And it's funny because when you do it in the car and you're driving or whatever, and then you pull over and you say, okay, whoa. And people go, are you okay? Are you okay? So, no, I just need a little time out here right now.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Well, I think self-awareness is a big part of this,
Oh.
right? Being self-aware.
And
That's
I
what we
laugh-
call it
and-
in our world. It's, oh, he's very self-aware of that. Well, he's in
also,
tune.
People might say also you're being very selfish. They use that word all
Yeah,
the time too.
yeah.
So
I think you have to.
in integrated energy therapy, we have a thing that's called spiritual selfishness.
Okay.
And where you are practicing coming from your heart and putting out the compassion. All right, you're purposely focusing on yourself, things that you need to change about yourself. You have in spiritual compassion for yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can actually emanate it out for somebody else when it happens to somebody else and you're right in the middle of that field. But you have to build it. Same with building your higher consciousness. How do you connect with it? Years ago, the yogis sit and meditate for an hours at a time. You don't need to do that anymore because we've evolved. So keep it very simple. You know, when it happens, laugh at yourself.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I know it's going to get better. It's happened many, many times. And think of what I always remember, one of my grand sponsors, Ruby Lubac in AA. She always says, think of the last before the first and go to a meeting. Think of the last, how you felt before you finally let go and let God. And did something about your alcoholism.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because that's going to keep you in the gratitude of keeping going forward.
Right.
And that's anything in your life, especially this energy that we're in now.
No,
it changes every day.
I think, yeah. And I think when you can see it as it's a momentum that, and you want to keep it as a positive momentum, and you can equate it to very easily to a diet, right? Well, where will I stick to the diet? When I start seeing the results and I start seeing the stuff and I start feeling better. And then once you start feeling better there, all of a sudden everything else starts to be going good.
Well,
that's what we're talking about.
The depression. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's because repetition,
Yep.
behaviors, programming,
Mhm.
to be able to get something that it's a habit.
Mhm.
It's not something that you're going to be striving for. You do it automatically.
Right.
Just like when you choose which food to eat.
Yeah.
Even though you want to have the comfort food and just manja type thing,
Yeah.
fill it up,
Yeah.
it's like, nah, I feel so much better, when I don't eat at night, I don't have the GERD at night.
Yeah.
Or when I get up in the morning, I don't have the guilt because of what I did the night before. That happened with me 32 years ago when I stopped drinking, it's like, and I didn't drink that much,
Yeah.
but I had all the feelings of it.
Yeah.
The feelings of it. Like
All right.
people say, I can't believe that you were an alcoholic. You don't look like an alcoholic. And I say, well,
What does an
I
alcoholic
don't know
look
what
like?
alcohol looks like, but I know what it feels like. It's about feelings and why
Mhm.
emotional drinking,
Mhm.
and why I was upset, beating myself up,
Right.
and this relieves the stress. So there's a lot of ways you can look at it.
There are many.
And that's because I've gone through it. That's how it works.
Yeah. And people can go to SheilaTillich.com and see all your
Yes.
different things, right?
All of it, for everything. And it's not just one thing, or it's all of it together.
Yes.
Because once you get into the field, your spirit knows how to heal yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just a conduit.
Yeah.
And I am so grateful for all the people that's helped me. So
Yeah.
whether it's the classes, whether it's my recovery work, whether it's the heart math to understand, to bring the focus back to myself, just be quiet, settle in, and go with inside
Mhm.
and ask for help, because you have tons of helpers out there. And there's people like me that help you too,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. That is true.
Yeah.
We will close it out. I always love these. I really do.
Well, that's
I think, did we say we would do once a month?
once a month.
Okay. So I'm thinking next month, look around the July 12th, if you have time, if you can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just to see, because I think I'm going to have my mom come up, and I would have her
Well,
on.
remember, I have my classes. They have your mom come do my classes. That would
Yeah,
be great.
is that when your classes are? The 12th,
12th, and 13th.
11th, 12th, and 13th.
It's 3
Okay.
days in a row.
Okay,
because
I don't want to.
It builds upon your frequency. So when I do classes, integrated energy therapy is about recalibrating your frequency field in your DNA
Yeah.
to be able to pick up on the spiritualness that you have inside.
Okay.
Right. And each level builds a bigger level. It's not like Reiki we have to practice in between,
Yeah.
because this is about your own DNA recalibration, or older terms is attunement. Right. And your body knows what needs to be healed. And by doing them 3 in a row, you can start practicing and doing this on yourself right then. And that's what you feel. That's what I like about my class. It's very hands-on. And so that you can feel the energy change in yourself. And then you can go and help other people.
Yeah. I think all that is great. So I don't know. Would you not have time to do this an hour on the 12th?
It would have to be first thing in the morning because my classes start at 9:30.
Oh. Wow.
Can you get up at 5:30, 6 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, I do from
to.
time to time. Today I didn't, but I will.
I mean, if we set it up, I can set that up.
Okay. Well, we'll look into that. Well, always a pleasure. SheilaTillich.com. Get that information. And Billightenment, it's got to become its own thing. It's just happening. It's happening. It's happening, my friends.
Love it.